let's move straight to our next conversation. Proactive measures continue to shape the pace of governance in Oyo State, with authorities remaining on high alert and prioritizing precautionary actions. In the face of recent security concerns, the Oyo State government has suspended all school excursions, field trips, sporting competitions, and other activities conducted outside school premises across the state. The directive, issued by the State Ministry of Education, takes immediate effect and supersedes all previously approved trips and external school engagement. Meanwhile, Ogun State government has planned to deploy Amotekun and vigilante personnel to secure schools. Biko, is the Oyo State government right to suspend all school excursions and field trips, over this rising security situation?
You are right.
You're right.
There are steps that they should have taken in the past that they didn't take. I was very hard on governors here, Southwest governors, because the Southwest governors dropped the ball. All of the suggestions made to them about how the region can be, the geopolitical zone can be protected. What are they doing about it? You call for summits. At the end of the day, we don't see anything coming out of those security summits. So what is the meaning of this summit if you will not implement the things that you agreed upon? Why can't you work with different stakeholders?
Okay.
Apart from Amotekun, you have OPC. Gani Adams, in 2021, OPC raided that national park, your national park, and seized AK-47 from nomads that had turned that place to their home. Did we sustain such efforts? Did they engage with them with a view to having them continue such onslaught? The answer is no. It's not about wearing starched agbada up and down, going to Abuja as if Abuja is where they voted for you. This is where they voted for you. And you must protect the people here.
Yes.
It's not about playing politics. You must protect the people. You must take steps, think out of the box to protect the people. This is the safest geopolitical zone in our country. And before our eyes, because our governors decided to be complacent. Look at what is happening. A friend of mine who was in government in Katsina, he said before things degenerated in Katsina, we had that kidnap of the government science secondary school students, Kankara. He said his own friend in Borno warned him that if you people allow this thing to degenerate, if you don't nip it in the bud now, you will regret it, and your case could be worse than that of the Northeast.
So there was a warning.
I can tell you, some parts of the Northeast are safer than the Northwest now. Yes. Some parts, look at Gombe, for example. How many times do you hear incidents about Gombe?
Bauchi and the rest of them.
Bauchi recently, we saw some bandits that are beginning to disturb them. But the truth is that the Northwest has become an embarrassment to our nation in terms of the rampant banditry happening there. And those of them being killed by our armed forces, they are now coming down. They come into Kwara.
Yes.
From Kwara now, they come into Oyo State. Anywhere there is a forest, because they are not human beings. They prefer to live in the forest. So who is the normal human being who prefers to go and live in the forest, except an animal? Okay. So because of that complacency, the inability to think out of the box and come up with the right decisions. This is what we are seeing now. Now we are hearing that Ogun State, they are planning to send Amotekun and Vigilante to secure schools. This should have happened before now.
Time ago.
And sometimes even when they announce this, they will not do it. You just hear it, okay, just
implementation is the
they will not do it until something drastic happens. We have to stop this. I don't understand.
The Southwest is under siege, and this is the incident that broke the silence. On Friday, 15th of May 2026, armed gunmen riding motorcycles dressed in military camouflage and communicating in Yoruba, Hausa, and Pidgin stormed three schools in the Orire local government area of Oyo State. Their targets: Baptist Nursery and Primary School in Yawota, Community Grammar School in Ahoro Esiele, and LA Primary School. By the time the dust settled, 46 persons had been abducted, 39 students, and 7 teachers. Among the youngest victims was a 2-year-old child. Mathematics teacher Michael Oyedokun, who reportedly stood between his pupils and the attackers, was later beheaded in captivity, with a video of the killing circulated online to deepen the horror. As of late May 2026, over 2 weeks after the attack, many victims remained in the forest. The vice principal, Mrs. Alamo Folawe, pleaded on video from captivity, kneeling in distress, asking the president, the governor, and the Nigerian public to negotiate for their release. This was not a lone act of criminality. It was a coordinated assault, the kind that signals the arrival of a well-established insurgent infrastructure in a region that had, until recently, prided itself as Nigeria's most stable geopolitical zone. In response, the Oyo State government issued a circular on 22nd of May 2026 suspending all school excursions, field trips, sports, competitions, and outdoor activities. The directive, signed by the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Education, Mrs. B.T. Onyeloye, took immediate effect, overriding all prior approvals, and was distributed to education authorities across the state. It is against this backdrop that veteran journalist and political commentator Jide Otitoju's analysis deserves a rigorous and factual examination. Now, was the Oyo State government right to suspend school excursions? The short answer is yes, and the reasoning is sound even if the timing reveals a deeper failure. Reactive security measures, when they protect lives, are always justified. The Oyo State government had no choice but to respond after a coordinated attack on schools that exposed the vulnerability of students outside structured security perimeters. The suspension directive is a precautionary tool, not a solution, and the government itself acknowledged this, noting that it will be reviewed as soon as the security situation improves. However, the decision also exposes the reactive character of governance in the region. The bandits who attacked those 3 schools in Orire did not appear overnight. The Old Oyo National Park, just 60 kilometers from Niger State, had been flagged as a security black hole since at least 2020. The attackers used forest corridors that multiple stakeholders, including the Are Onakakanfo Gani Adams, had publicly warned about for years. The school suspension, while necessary, is the equivalent of locking the gate after the cattle have bolted. That said, the directive is commendable in one critical aspect. It prioritizes child safety explicitly and unambiguously, stating that the safety of our children is non-negotiable and takes precedence over all academic and extracurricular activities. For a government that critics accuse of political posturing, this is at minimum a functional administrative response. The real question is, what comes next? Babajide Otitoju's central argument is that the Southwest governors have been complacent, that they have repeatedly held security summits, made agreements, collected goodwill from regional stakeholders, and failed to implement what was agreed upon. He argues that their recurrent visit to Abuja Their starched agbada appearances at federal functions reflect a misplaced priority, that they are more invested in the politics of Aso Rock than the governance of the people who elected them. This is a hard charge, but the evidence suggests it is substantially correct. On the summit, and their empty outcomes, it is a documented fact that Southwest governors have convened or attended no fewer than 4 significant regional security summits since 2020, culminating in the Ibadan Emergency Security Summit of November 2025. Each summit has produced communiques urging action, more deployment of Amatekun, engagement with traditional rulers, anti-open grazing enforcement, and forest surveillance. Yet, by May 2026, Gani Adams was revealing that terrorists had infiltrated at least 40 of the 137 local government areas across the southwest zone. The gap between summit declarations and ground level security reality is not a small policy lag, it is a governance chasm. On Lagos and uneven implementation, Adams himself, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, publicly singled out Lagos State for failing to fully operationalize the Amotekun Corps, while commending Oyo and Ondo for stronger commitment. Lagos, the most economically powerful state in the region, has effectively treated Amotekun as a political symbol rather than a functional security instrument. When the flagship state of a regional security initiative refuses to fully implement it, it undermines the entire concept of coordinated Southwest security. On the forest threat warning ignored, Gani Adams warned in September 2020 that armed terrorists had occupied Kishi and the old Oyo National Park. He led a combined OPC, vigilante and hunters operation that flushed the bandits out, recovering 4 AK-47 rifles and vehicles. After that intervention, kidnapping incidents in Kishi, Orire, and Aguare reportedly reduced, but the operation was not sustained. No framework was established to maintain the pressure, and within years, the bandits returned, more organized, more brazen, and equipped with improvised explosive devices. The May 2026 school abduction in Orire LGA, which borders the same old Oyo National Park, confirms that the forest threat was never truly addressed. On Abuja centrism, Otitoju's starched Agbada to Abuja critique resonates politically because it names something real: the tendency of Nigerian state governors to manage upward towards the presidency and federal patronage networks rather than governing outward toward their constituents. Southwest governors, many of whom are aligned with or navigating the politics of the ruling APC under President Tinubu, himself a Southwest political patriarch, have had enormous incentive to maintain federal relationships and limited political cost from community level insecurity, at least until events like the Orire school abduction shattered that calculus. Otitoju is right that governors were elected by the people of their states, not by Abuja, and that security is the most fundamental obligation of the state to the citizen. Where Otitoju's critique deserves nuance, it is worth noting that some structural limitations are not entirely of the governor's making. Security in Nigeria remains constitutionally on the exclusive legislative list, meaning state governments cannot independently deploy police, make arrests, or conduct intelligence operation at scale. Amotekun was created precisely to work around this limitation, and its establishment was initially resisted by the federal government. That constitutional constraint is real, but it does not explain the failure to resource Amotekun properly, sustain community intelligence networks, or follow through on forest surveillance, all of which fall within state executive capacity. Can OPC, now another question, can OPC and Amotekun be part of the solution? Yes, they can, and the evidence shows they already have been when properly engaged, but their potential remains far below what it could be for structural and political reasons. Amotekun's documented successes and limitations. Since its launch on 9th of January 2020, Amotekun has recorded genuine operational wins in Ibadan North. 24-hour patrols, culturally sensitive methods, and resident collaboration have contributed to measurable drops in crime. In parts of Ondo and Osun states, hunter vigilante groups working alongside Amotekun have demonstrated what a hybrid, community-first approach can achieve. But a critical weakness has undermined the network from the start: the absence of a unified command structure. Each state runs its own Amotekun apparatus with different levels of funding, equipment, and operational doctrine. Adams himself flagged this, arguing that security is not something you handle in isolation, especially when threats are interconnected. Bandits crossing from Niger State into Kwara and then Oyo State do not respect jurisdictional boundaries, and decentralized response to a coordinated threat is structurally inadequate. Now, OPC's proven intelligence advantage. The OPC operation in Ibarapa, arrest of associates of Iskilu Wakili in 2021, in Kishi, dislodging of forest bandits, and in multiple other engagements show something critical. Community-based organizations with local knowledge, cultural trust, and motivation to protect their own territory are uniquely effective in ways that distant state security agencies are not. The OPC knows the terrain, speaks the language, and has community informants that former security agencies lack. When Adams' teams flushed the bandits from the Old Oyo National Park corridor, kidnapping rates fell. That is not coincidence. Traditional hunters and their exclusion. Perhaps the most telling detail from the aftermath of the Orire school attack was this: traditional hunters in Oyo State declared that they had the capacity to tackle the crisis in the Old Oyo National Park, but complained that they had not been consulted or formally recognized by the government. Here is a group of people with intimate knowledge of the forest, operational motivation, and demonstrated capability, sitting on the sidelines because there is no formal framework to integrate them. This is a governance failure of the most avoidable kind. The limits of vigilantism. It is also necessary to be honest about risks. OPC operations have at times generated ethnic and communal tensions, particularly around Fulani communities, some of which contain innocent civilians. Vigilante action without proper oversight can degenerate into reprisal violence, score settling, and human rights abuses. The challenge is not whether to use OPC and Amotekun, but how to use them with a clear legal and operational framework that prevents abuse while maximizing their intelligence and deterrent value. Otitoju's reference to the Northwest is not rhetorical flourish. It is a security policy lesson grounded in tragic history. His account of a Borno source warning a Katsina official before the Kankara school abduction, which happened in December 2020, when 344 government science secondary school students were taken, encapsulates the Nigerian governance failure pattern. Early warning exists, but political will to act on it early is absent. By the time governments respond, the criminal infrastructure has matured, as local informants, has acquired weapons, and has learned the terrain. The Kankara abduction in 2020 was, in hindsight, the inflection point for the Northwest. Some analysts now argue that parts of the Northwest have displaced the Northeast as Nigeria's most active theater of organized armed violence. Otitoju's point is that the Southwest is now at its own Kankara moment, and the question is whether its political class will learn from the Northwest's failure or repeat it. The intelligence is already alarming. Gani Adams' OPC network has documented terrorist presence in 40 of the Southwest 137 local governments. The Old Oyo National Park provides forest cover stretching towards Niger State, The bandits communicate in Hausa, Yoruba, and Pidgin, suggesting both external recruitment and local collaboration networks. One of the most disturbing details from the Orire attack was this. Police investigations revealed that informants within the affected communities actively assisted the abductors during and after the operation. The infrastructure of collaboration, local informants, forest hideouts, weapons caches is already in place. This is not the beginning of the crisis. This is a crisis that has been building for half a decade. And now, toward a permanent solution, what must actually happen? Neither school excursion bans nor Amotekun deployment announcements are solutions. They are responses. A permanent solution requires action across at least 5 interconnected dimensions. Number 1, unified Southwest Security Command. The current state-by-state Amotekun structure must be replaced or supplemented with a regional command that mirrors the threat architecture. Bandits operate across state lines. The security response must. The Emergency Security Summit of November 2025 acknowledged the need to review Amotekun structure and enhance its capacity. That review must produce an actual unified command with a joint operations center, shared intelligence, and cross-state deployment authority. Forest reclamation and sustained surveillance. That's number 2. The old Oyo National Park and other forested areas across the zone must be brought under continuous surveillance, not periodic raids, but permanent monitoring. This requires the formalization and resourcing of traditional hunters and local vigilante groups as forest intelligence networks. The proposed Forest Guards initiative is a step in the right direction, but the January 2026 attack on the National Park Office, which killed 5 forest guards officers, shows that even this nonsense structure is under attack. It must be adequately armed, trained, and protected. Number 3, community intelligence networks. The Orire attack was enabled by local informants. Reversing this requires active community engagement, trust building, and incentives for civilian intelligence cooperation. Traditional rulers, whose authority at the grassroots level remains significant, must be given resources and formal roles in security governance. The Yoruba Security Summit of 2024 specifically called on traditional rulers to take full possession of their forests, homelands, and farmlands. That call needs institutional backing, not just ceremonial endorsement. Number 4, constitutional reform for state policing. The longer-term solution cannot avoid the constitutional question. Nigeria's security architecture, which concentrates policing powers at the federal level, is structurally mismatched to the country's scale and diversity. A constitutional amendment enabling state police, a debate that has been ongoing for years and has recently gained new momentum, would fundamentally change what Southwest governors can do about security without waiting for Abuja. Until that reform is achieved, governors will always be constrained in their ability to respond at speed and scale. Number 5, addressing root causes, land, livelihood, and climate. The banditry and kidnapping crisis in Nigeria's Middle Belt and now the Southwest is not separable from the wider crisis of pastoral displacement, land competition, and climate-driven resource stress. Many of the armed groups that now terrorize farming communities were originally cattle herders whose livelihoods were destroyed by drought, land enclosure, and the collapse of traditional grazing corridors. This does not justify their criminality, but a purely kinetic response that kills or arrests bandits without addressing the conditions that produce them will generate infinite replacement recruits. Long-term stability requires structured dialogue with pastoral communities, investment in ranching alternatives, and a serious federal commitment to the implementation of anti-open grazing legislation across all southern states. In conclusion, the children of Orire are still in the forest as this analysis is written. A teacher has been beheaded. A 2-year-old is among those in captivity. Those are not statistics. They are human beings whose suffering is the direct cost of years of governance failure. Otitoju is right about the governors. They have been substantially complacent. They have held summits and won Agbada. They have visited Abuja. They have issued communiques. They have not sustained the operations that worked. They have not resourced the structures they created. They have not listened to the voices, Adams, the hunters, the communities that were sounding the alarm. But the analysis should not stop at blame. The Southwest still has assets that the Northwest lacked: a functioning regional security identity, the Amotekun framework, a motivated OPC network, active traditional leadership, and a governor in Oyo's Seyi Makinde who has at least responded with feasible urgency to the Orire crisis. These assets can be mobilized. The question, as Otitoju rightly frames it, is whether the governors will wait for something drastic to force action, or whether the Orire school abduction with its beheaded teacher and its 2-year-old captive will finally be drastic enough to produce not a summit, not a circular, not a suspension directive, but a real sustained coordinated security architecture for the Southwest. The Northwest had its Kankara warning. The Southwest has had its Orire. What happens next is a choice. Thank you for listening. Just go right in the comment section. What do you think about this analysis? What do you think the Southwest governors should do better? What do you think is the solution, the long-term permanent solution to these issues? And please don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to subscribe. Please, once again, subscribe. Thank you.